I'm going to make it real for y'all right now, especially when it comes to ownership. I'm really going to make it real for you, and I hope you appreciate it. Okay, when it comes to having a job, first of all, I'm not here to put down jobs. I'm glad that you love your job, and if you hate your job, well, you don't really need to stay there. That's another conversation for another day. But when it comes to ownership, you can be okay with just letting somebody else own your income. And if you have a job, don't kid yourself, you do not own your income. Somebody tells you exactly how much money you're allowed to make. If you get a raise, somebody tells you if you're allowed to get a raise. And if you do get one, how much is the raise going to be? That's somebody else makes those decisions for you. You don't control anything except what you do, how you respond to things that happens to you that you have no control over, but you do not own your income. Therefore, you don't really own your time or your destiny or your life. You've handed it over to somebody else because you can't really get anything without money. You can get love and respect and all those powerful things, but beyond that, you can't get anything without money. You need it to survive. You can't even have a house and food. You can't even eat unless you have money. It's just the way it is. So somebody else owns 100% of your income, you don't really own anything. That's how I make it real. By making you aware of that. So if you're okay with that, that is totally cool. But here's a big problem, and here's a very common delusion that most people fall into, especially in this country of America. We actually believe for a long time that we're going to provide a valuable service or labor or something of value. We're going to provide value to our employer, and in turn, we expect to be treated fairly. Fair wages, fair benefits, and so on and so forth, and that's fine. That's a noble thing to want, but to have that expectation is naive. It's delusional, and that's been exposed the past 10, 20, 30 years with jobs being offshored to India at no fault of our own, and cutbacks and a terrible economy and how we respond to it and things like that. People working their entire life for a pension and then they lose that just before retirement. How degrading is that? So that's where the naive and the delusional stuff comes into play. You've got to be here's how you keep it real for yourself in case you're not already doing it. If you're going to be okay with letting somebody else own 100% of your income, then you have to get real and also be okay with the fact that since you don't own it, you can lose it. Anything can happen to it. It can be gone. You can do everything you're supposed to do. You can even go above and beyond, and still, at the end of the day, you do not own your income. Somebody else does. And if they say it goes off to India for cheaper labor, then it's gone. And you've got to be okay with that. It goes with the territory of being okay with somebody else owning your entire income. And if you're still okay with that, cool. At least you're honest with yourself. But most people aren't honest. They're still stuck in this, well, I should be paid fairly and treated fairly, and I should at least be allowed to keep my job and so on. Maybe you should be allowed to at least have a job so long as you're doing what you're supposed to do. You scratch your employer's back, your employer scratch your back, that sort of thing. It should be like that, but the reality is it's not. Those are the facts, and you've got to respond to that. You've got the information. Now it's your responsibility what you do with it. So if you're still going to keep on gunning to have only a job and let somebody else own 100% of your income and you're doing nothing on the side to own anything, then you've got to be okay with it when the day comes that your pension is taken away from you, your retirement, your savings, your income, your benefits, your health insurance, all of it. You've got to be okay with that. If you're not, then you're naive. You're living a delusion that's eventually going to destroy your self-image. It will. So don't fall prey to that. Really don't. A lot of people have, and a lot of people have a terrible self-image now because of it. So that's the problem with subscribing to delusions, is that you chip away self-image a little bit every day, or sometimes all at once when you get that phone call or that meeting at work when your job is offshore to India, and it's usually going to be done by somebody other than the people who actually made that decision, because they typically don't have the guts or the integrity to tell you face to face. It's just the way it is. And it goes with the territory of not owning your income. So at the very least, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, first of all, good. And secondly, I hope that discomforture leads to a different plan, some different action, let's say some massive different action immediately without waiting, because procrastination is the cornerstone of all poverty. I hope that you do something now to find a unique opportunity, relentlessly search for it, for that unique opportunity that allows you to own your own income, whatever it may be. And because this whole concept of ownership, odds are you're going to start with absolutely nothing, so it takes time to build. It could take years. So it makes sense to get started now because you don't know when your job is going bye-bye, or they're going to cut hours, or maybe just a pay cut. Who knows? I don't know. So you need years to prepare for something like that happening. Step up, do something to own your own income. That is the best way at solving that problem. And if you still, after hearing this, you still want to just have a job and have somebody else own your income and your destiny, that's cool. Just get real with yourself and realize that you have no legitimate gripe if your income is suddenly gone because you let somebody else control it. You didn't step up and own it. You've got it. That's just the way the universe works. You fight that. Maybe it shouldn't be that way. Maybe you're right, and things will be different like in the next life. But as for now, we are guests on this planet. This is the scenario that we've inherited. We cannot change it. That's like trying to change the order of the sunset and the sunrise. Like the sunset should rise in the east, and I'm sorry, it already does that. Like maybe the sunset should rise in the west and set in the east. I mean, that's like trying to go out there and trying to change that so that it does. No, you can't fool with that. It's like trying to mess with the seasons. It shouldn't be that way. I think winter should come after spring or whatever. That's just as foolish as hanging on to the idea that your employer is always going to treat you fairly because you provide a valuable service. I hope that makes sense. And of course, I'm going to plug the best opportunity in the world, at least I believe the best opportunity in the world. There's others out there, sure. But the one that I took advantage of that changed everything for me is the Beachbody opportunity. I got a chance to finally take care of myself, get truly deeply healthy. I help a bunch of other people get truly deeply healthy now. And it solved my income problems. And I own my income. And you know what? I have no plans whatsoever to sell my job to India. I don't. I'm not going to offshore my own job. That would be stupid. So I'm going to hang on to it, and it's going to pay me a really wonderful passive income for the rest of my life. It took me a couple years. I went through a struggle for a couple years to build it up to where it's at now. But is it worth it to be financially free for the rest of my life? You better believe it is. Absolutely. It was 0% chance of my job going to India or to have my pay cut or whatever else that comes with having somebody else own your income, to do away with all that, yeah, it was worth going through that struggle for a couple years, man. Absolutely, it was. It's not like when you step up and own your own income that you're going to go to work for 40 hours and then get paid accordingly. No, that's a job. That's yuck. Ugh. No, I would much rather have this burden of having to go through the struggle of building something, actually creating something that I own that will eventually take care of me for the rest of my life. A job won't. It just won't. Yeah. Well, anyway, let me know if you'd like more information about this Beachbody opportunity. I will share the information with anybody, but I won't work with just anybody. I've got some rules that you got to follow if you want to do this. The reason I've got those rules is because I'm a strong believer in weeding out the tire kickers because I know that they're not going to accomplish anything anyway. But if you're not a tire kicker, I'll find out. I'll find out rather quickly. I got really good at weeding people out, and that's how I'm able to touch so many lives. If I were to work with anybody and everyone, there's no way I'd have enough time in a day to work with, a half of the people that I'm working with whose lives are effectively changing. So I want you to understand I don't have rules to be a jerk or to be liked or disliked, but I'm telling you, if you let me grow you into an independently wealthy person who is physically very healthy and emotionally healthy, psychologically healthy, self-confidence rises, if you let me grow you into that kind of a person, you're probably gonna come to like me quite a bit.